today we have a very interesting opposition which keeps harping on inflation and conveniently decides to ignore the fact that our people, our Singaporean people today, have 30% higher income than what they ever had 10 years ago. So let us first readdress this whole one main point of contention on really is the government derelicting its duty of care. So firstly, we have seen that the government is essentially providing for all its different people, seeing how that, number one, our GDP for 2010 is projected by the Singapore Statistics Office to rise by 6%, while our inflation is 2%. Essentially, that means our GDP outruns our inflation by an entire 4%, which shows that our economic policies are, number one, effective, and number two, are widespread. They help both the rich and the poor. No doubt, yes, the rich do get richer, but on the point... No, thank you, sir. We actually do see that our poor get richer. They now have a larger pool of disposable income. They are able to purchase goods they weren't able to purchase before. They are able to send their children to universities which were denied to them before. And this is what we see the government doing for our people. Moreover, what we see is that we have to be very realistic in what the government can and cannot do. Many of times where we try to cater to policies that encompass the entire society, we do see there are some people who fall through the cracks. Such as in 2007, when we imposed the increment of GST, there are some people in the lower income who could not afford this. But what we do, as what the government essentially does, is it tries to negate the effects. It tries to minimize the harmful effects by having bonus packages for these people. And at the end of the day, these harmful effects are essentially negated. And therefore, as a result, economic growth is prioritized. At the same time, our Singaporeans are being looked after. So now having dealt with that, let me move on to what the local corporations and international companies will be talking about today. Today, I will essentially show you two things. First, what it means for corporations to when the government makes the most of opportunities to grow the economy. And second, why this is critical for the continued prosperity of our people and our economy. So on the first point, on what it means for corporations, in a moment, sir, what it means for corporations when the government makes the most of opportunities to grow the economy. But before that, yes, sir.
Sir, absolute poverty is different from relative poverty. So our people may have more money, may have more money, sir, but at the end of the day, they can purchase less goods and services as compared.
The point is, sir, at the end of the day, our poorer people are still getting a higher income. They are able to buy more items which were previously denied to them. They have more opportunities given to them which were previously denied to them. And that is what we want for our people. Very real, tangible things that they can treasure. That is what we want for Singapore as a whole. No, thank you, sir. So now, let me first move to my first point, what this means for the corporations. Now, essentially because of how Singapore is reliant on investments and companies coming onto our shores to set up shop. Essentially, it means that Singapore creates a business-friendly environment. We essentially do these things through expansion incentives, having good infrastructure, which is efficient and effective, and a very stable government. What this essentially does is that it attracts big MNCs alike to come to Singapore to invest, and that is why we house over 26,000 international companies in Singapore as of current. Moreover, what this does is that it allows local businesses to expand and grow and remain competitive in their different fields. And this is how we see this is essentially good for both international companies and our local industries. So then, why would this be critical for Singapore's economy and its people? I will be showing you this on three main things: on taxes, wages, and corporate social responsibility. So on the first point of taxation, when these companies come into Singapore, we essentially see that the government is able to generate a larger amount of taxes, and this actually serves as revenue, which is critical to support services for our Singaporeans.
Point of information,
services such as healthcare, education, which are critical even more for the lower income groups. It is through this corporate tax that the government makes its revenue and generates it to be able to meet the needs of the people. And this is why we see it is a good thing for our Singaporean people. On the second point, on wages, when these companies come in, they normally tend to subcontract or require employment for their different companies. We see international companies such as Cardell generates over 3,000 jobs in Singapore. This creates employment. Therefore, when we have employment, a larger number of Singaporeans has a stable income, or in fact, a larger income as they had before. As a result, it also leads to the same fact that they now have a larger pool of disposable income to spend on daily necessities to provide for their children's education. And this is where we see it solves the problem of unemployment, and it helps our Singaporeans as a whole. So finally, on the last point, on corporate social responsibility, we see that a large number of companies these days are acknowledging the fact that they need to become household names synonymous with charity works. As a result, they give out subsidies, scholarships, and even jobs to the lower income people. As in Shell, they give out 5,000 jobs to lower income individuals as well as scholarships for less fortunate students. So we see how this is critical. This making the most of such opportunities is critical for our economy and, at the end of the day, our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter.
Are we having equitable growth now? Yes. Why do we need more growth? That side of the House has not given us an answer as to why do we need more inequitable growth, ladies and gentlemen. We agree on this side of the House, especially closing opposition, that we want equitable growth, because that means that the community as a whole is taken care of. But they have not given us the reason up till now why do we need this inequitable growth. Now, before I move on to 2 points of extension, I have 2 points of rebuttals. Firstly, is the policy of maximizing growth necessary or just? And secondly, with the closing government's extension on the whole companies. Sir. No, thank you, madam. The whole idea of the companies. So first of all, is the policy of maximizing growth necessary and just? What we have heard from opening government is that we need to deal with challenges. No, thank you, sir. Challenges from China and India as they emerge in this global economy. But ladies and gentlemen, are we not having equitable growth, ladies and gentlemen? We are averaging nearly 4% to 5% over the last decade, ladies and gentlemen. Is that not enough, ladies and gentlemen? What more do they want? Furthermore, they can add on the idea, no thank you, that because of this growth, in the long run, we can solve the problem of equity. This is something that opening opposition left off with, and we're going to extend it. We're telling that, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, give me real statistics from the Department of Statistics in 2007. We posted 7.5% growth, one of the highest in this decade. Yet we saw the incomes of the lowest 20% drop by 3.2%, ladies and gentlemen. Are you going to deal with inequitable growth? No. If you follow your own policy, ladies and gentlemen, we say you are not going to be able to deal with this inequitable growth. No, thank you. We want to further extend and add on to say that you are taking a gamble. The side of the government is taking a gamble. We are going to stake the lives of the poor, the lives of racially marginalized groups, which I will further go to prove, ladies and gentlemen, for the possibility of future success. We think that's unjust and we don't think that's necessary. No, thank you, madam. So moving on to this closing government's extension. Now they say, first of all, that we want to create this business environment for people to come. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what is really creating this right business environment? Is it to ensure that you have wide income inequality such that inequity breeds resentment? Or is it to foster a community, ladies and gentlemen, that portrays itself as one that is caring towards the poorest or to the most racially marginalized, which I'm going to talk about again later, ladies and gentlemen? We think it is the latter, and we think, given what they have talked about, they are not achieving that. No, thank you. Further, they went on to the idea of, closing government said they want corporate tax. Which begs the question, ladies and gentlemen, if they truly want corporate tax, how is that something that is making the most of opportunities to grow the economy, ladies and gentlemen? Because if you want to make the most of opportunities to grow the economy, you will lower corporate tax. Now, last of all, they brought to us the idea that you will increase the income overall as a whole. No, ladies and gentlemen, they are taking it wrong, and I'm going to give you the mechanism. Why? Because your rich is best able to make use of these opportunities, make use of all these, to tap into globalization, ladies and gentlemen, and make use of the new opportunities that this growth brings, not the poor, ladies and gentlemen, and with widening income inequality, that's not going to happen. So I'm going to move on to my extension. What is the side of the Ministry of Community Development, Youth and Sports going to bring to you today? I want to extend in 2 areas. First, that social fragmentation will occur. And second, that it renames of Singapore's vision, hold on a moment, madam, of an inclusive society. Yes, madam.
We need to recognize that on one hand, rising tide lifts our boats, but if you do not keep the economy afloat, everybody will sink.
The economy is already afloat, madam. Why do you need to continue with inequitable growth? You have not yet answered that question. So I'm going to move on. MCOS believes that policies pursued by the government will fragment society along class lines, clearly demarcating between the rich and the poor, because widening income inequality makes the rich richer and the poor poorer. Now, an increase in income inequality reduces social mobility. And here's where we extend from where opening opposition left off. Because we think that we want to take the measure of intergenerational income elasticity. It measures how different a child's income will be from his parents. Measures of this indicator from the Human Development Report suggests that a Singaporean child in a lower income group only has a 12% chance of earning more than his parent. The lack of social mobility is an intergenerational problem because the wealth of your parents is significant effect on your own wealth. This creates recurring cycles of poverty, which further entrenches the same group of people in the same deplorable circumstances. And this is different because we are not only focusing on lower income groups now, but also the fragmentation of society in the future. Now, we think the problem is exacerbated when income inequality created by the government aggregates along racial lines, which is what I'm going to prove to you, because this problem exists because of certain statistical truths about our Singapore economy. Between 1990 and
Point of information,
2005,
sir.
the average income for a Malay person went from 27% below national average to 43% below national average. Conversely, the average income for a Chinese person rose from 7% above national average to 12% above national average. This suggests that any increase in income inequity will disproportionately affect some racial groups more than others, and we think this is unacceptable. So leading me very nicely on to my second point of extension, how the government reneges on Singapore's vision for inclusive society. Because Singapore society was never formed to exclude certain individuals, to privilege others. We think that Singapore society as a community should include every single individual, and we think that we should never place an economic value on our citizens. Clearly, the trade-off that the government is talking about commodifies human beings. That's not something we can stand for, as it does not square with Singapore's vision for being a developed nation and a global leader. Thank you.
Thank you.